This is Food, Faith, and Fortunes. Welcome back. I'm Alexis Lambert, and this segment is on faith. And uh, um, this is uh, the question about what does it mean to be the bride of Christ. That doesn't really make sense in our Western culture. It doesn't really make sense, really, in any culture. How can you be the bride of, God? How can you really be the bride of the Son of God? So I get that it's a legit question. So I'm gonna try to go over this. It's a it's a very deep subject. It's a very, very profound, deep subject. So I would like to give it the time that it deserves, that it very rightly deserves. So I'm going to break it down into segments, into different videos. So this is definitely going to be a two-parter video. Maybe a three-parter video. We'll see. But the first part is going to focus on the wedding. If we're the bride of Christ, there has to be a wedding. And so I want to focus first on just what the ancient Jewish wedding looked like. And of course, I've got it written down. So I'm just going to read it. And this is something that I wrote. So it's going to flow very much like I would talk. Okay, obviously because I wrote it, but also a, a good chunk of it is going to. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. I got I got a lot of the information, and you can find this information anywhere. But um, oh, I'm going to draw a blank. John Bevere wrote a book recently, this year. I think it came out this year, called The King is Coming. And it's a great book. It's actually a great, great, great book. And he's not paying me to say this. But there's a chapter in the book that talks about the Jewish wedding. So some of this information came from there. So I definitely want to give that credit there. But I'm just going to start reading. I'm just going to start reading this. Modern day weddings, especially in the United States, look much different from the weddings in Israel around the time Jesus was giving the parable that we find in Matthew 22, 1 through 14. Now, I'm not going to read the whole parable. I'm not going to read the parable at all. You can just go read it. But everybody's familiar with the wedding parable, okay? It's difficult for most of us today to relate fully to the message of Jesus returning for his bride without understanding the full picture of the ancient Jewish wedding. And I don't know that very many people know the history, so I'd like to tell that story. In those days, brides were often chosen by the father of the groom. Proposals were not initiated by the groom, and it began with a contract. The bridegroom, either with the approval of his father or accompanied by his father, would meet with the bride and their parents and present the written contract. And the written contract contained the terms of the proposed marriage, which would always include the bride price. Now, I want to pause here for 1 second, and I want to say, this has nothing to do with human trafficking. That somebody asked that one time, and it's I can go deeper into that at another point. But this is absolutely, it's nothing to do with human trafficking. So where was I? So it always included the bride price. Once both parties agreed to the terms of the contract, the groom then gives gifts to his bride and sometimes to her parents. Then he would pour a glass of wine and offer it to his betrothed. Sharing the wine together officially declared her acceptance of the terms of the marriage covenant and sealed the agreement. So she had the freedom. She had the option to say, no, I don't want to do this. So ultimately, it was still up to the bride to say yes or no. She didn't have to drink. From that time forward, they would not see each other again until the final stage of the wedding. Once the contract was confirmed, though, it was considered binding. The couple was officially betrothed, which carries a greater weight than engagements here in the United States, for example, or in today's time. It carried a greater weight than today. The difference being that our engagements today convey the intent to marry, whereas a betrothal back then officially joins the man and the woman by covenant. They are now, in essence, married with the exception of 3 privileges: seeing each other, physical consummation, and living together. At this point, the only way to separate was by a divorce. Like when Joseph learned of Mary's pregnancy during their time apart from each other, Joseph, being a kind and just man, planned to divorce her secretly and not bring her to public shame. So then the groom would, the next phase of this process, then the groom would return to his home, the home of his father, for an unforeseen period of time, and he would begin to build the bridal suite that the young couple would live in together. It was a room connected to his father's house. This was his primary responsibility during this time of separation. And then once the father approved of the honeymoon suite, or the section of the home that was now going to be the new couple's section of the home, once the father approved, he would send the son to go get his bride, to go snatch away his bride. The separation and the building process would normally span a year or so, give or take a few weeks, a month. The exact moment of his return to get his bride, though, was not known. However, there was a very keen awareness of the time frame. There was a very keen awareness of how long it took to build a bridal chamber, right? An add-on to the home. The final decision was solely in the hands of the groom's father. The bride had several responsibilities during this time in preparing for her groom's imminent return. Most importantly, she would keep herself pure, undefiled, and she would remain faithful to him during their separation, and he would do the same for her. Soon after the groom's departure to go build the home, the bride would go through a ceremonial immersion into clean water to publicly profess the separation from her old life to her new life, from the life of a single woman to becoming a wife. So everyone knew that she was in covenant. Her other tasks were more involved. She would be making her wedding garments during this time. She would be packing her belongings. She would be securing her oil lamp with plenty of extra oil. Other preparations, there were other preparations for leaving her home, but it was crucial that she lived in a constant state of readiness to be taken away, because she did not know when her groom was coming for her. Once the appointed day arrived, that the groom and his attendants would come to get the bride. The groom and his attendants would conduct a torchlight procession. Each would carry lamps entering the bride's community with shouts in the street, along with the sounding of uh, shofars, trumpets. They would come at night. Excuse me. They would come at night, sometimes as late as midnight. And so this was done for a couple of reasons. First, in those days, people didn't go out in the dark in the middle of the night. So coming in the evening ensured families would be gathered in their respective homes. Second, the dark would also keep their arrival secretive. If the procession were to take place in the daylight, the approaching group of men might be spotted prematurely by someone in the community. So it was intended to be a complete surprise for the bride. Once the shouts of the groomsmen were heard, the bridesmaids would respond by lighting their torch lamps and joining the procession. Together with some other alert family and friends, they would witness the groom catching away his bride. Once she was apprehended, the procession would lead back to the father, the father's house, the father of the groom. And then by this time, the parade would have significantly enlarged to include not only the bridal party, but musicians, singers, dancers, along with family and friends. The wedding party would escort the bride to the canopy of the bridal chamber. She would enter the chamber with her groom. She would enter the chamber where her groom had hurried ahead of her and was now awaiting her arrival to reveal the place that he had prepared for her. The groom would unveil his bride, and the couple would enter into physical union. A 7-day wedding banquet celebration would commence. And the bride and the groom would remain in the bridal chamber until the week's completion, and the groom would bring out his bride, now unveiled, and present her to all the wedding guests. So that is the that is the traditional, the old ancient Jewish wedding feast or wedding ceremony. So when we read in Matthew 22, when he describes the kingdom of heaven being like that, the parallels are, and that's actually going to be the second video, is how it parallels. And it's absolutely astounding how it parallels. So I encourage you to stick around for part 2. But if you have questions about anything that I just spoke about or that I just read, if there's something I left out, feel free to let me know. But it's kind of it's important that people understand this, because it's actually the key to why it all makes sense. So anyway, thanks for listening. I hope that you have a great rest of the day, and stay tuned for part 2. Thanks.